the way we're going to create the new is by doing these things, not focusing on that, but you and I having conversations like this and sharing with other people how other people can help empower themselves and how we gather together as a bigger collective tribe and we light one another up on the planet one by one and create the new.
Welcome to the Embrace and Expand podcast, where we talk about everything from spirituality, self-development, relationships, mindfulness, wellness, and everything that will help you embrace all that you are so you can expand into the best version of yourself. Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Carberry, and I want to thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Embrace and Expand podcast. Our guest today is a woman who has been walking the plant medicine path since 2010. She has been led all over the world working with and being initiated into many different lineages and plant medicine traditions. Her journey over the years has led her to be in service holding ceremonial spaces with Ayahuasca, Huachuma, Kambo, mushrooms, Hapé, just to name a few. She has worked with people from all walks of life, and she has experienced working as the key alternative medicine practitioner with an addiction treatment clinic for those who have tried everything and have not seen results with Western medicine. She is also a somatic trauma-informed plant medicine integration practitioner, and she is dedicated to holding a safe, loving space of support to guide you into transformation and the birthing of your true divine essence. So it is my great honor to introduce you to Shaundra Hyre. Shaundra, welcome to the Embrace and Expand podcast.
Hi, Adam. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast and for this beautiful opportunity, and also for everything that you do to help support everyone, all the light workers here on the planet, and to really raise the consciousness on the planet. We're doing it together. We're light team.
Absolutely. Yes, warriors of the light.
Yeah.
And we could not do it without each other.
Yeah.
Like the shifting of consciousness on this planet is such a bigger task than any one of us can really do on our own. So it really is. And that's one of the things that I've had many people ask me about this podcast, because when I first started this podcast, it was about sharing my knowledge and sharing my story and trying to share more about what it is that I do in hopes of bringing in more clients. But the more that I continued to interview other people and the more I brought other people to share their story and their path, the more I recognized that really what this podcast is all about is showcasing all of the beautiful souls that are doing this transformational work. And also recognizing that each one of us doesn't have the capacity to help everyone. And not everyone is always going to resonate with everything any one person has to say. So I love being able to support my fellow light workers in this platform and giving a space for you to be able to share your message, share your light, and share your wisdom. So if people resonate, they have a path that they can follow. So Shaundra, would you take a few moments to share with us what your path looked like to guide you to where you are today?
Transversing many different dimensions. I was a professional model for 21 years. I will try and fast track everything because I don't want to take a huge timeline. I'll try to give the pinpoints. I was a professional model for 21 years. It's probably important that I share. I actually haven't really shared a whole lot about these kind of like pivotal moments in my life. I was someone who was sexually abused as a child, and nobody knew. So just to give like a bit of a background story, and was also like the core examples were really toxic for me as masculine examples. So fast forward to me modeling for 21 years. I was addicted to cocaine for hard and fast 2 years. It was a really fun period of my life, but like really not healthy. And I nearly lost my life. And from like 1 week to the next, I really decided like, that's it. I sunk way to the lowest point that I had ever been. And I scared myself. I nearly died, and I got sober, and I never touched cocaine again. During that period of me healing was my awakening, and I had started doing therapy and really when I was like 26. So many years ago. And then so fast forward, like me modeling 21 years led me all over the world. And the industry's changed so much today. And I'm so grateful that I'm not in it. Then falling in love, I was living in London, falling in love with someone who, a really, really deep love. And he invited me to Brazil. There were like things that were not aligning for us. And then we repelled one another and I ended up staying in Brazil. That breakup ended up activating me to levels that I had never really known. On such deep levels, just opening me up of like all my insecurities. Feeling like abandonment, all my daddy wounds, like all these core childhood wounds came up, and relationships and breakups can be incredible catalysts for this. I think every time I've just dove in to have that opportunity to really dig deeper within inside of myself of like, where can I grow more? So that relationship, it was this opportunity. I was left wide open and I was in Brazil, and like the universe is just always divinely aligning and guiding everything. And I dove headfirst into plant medicines and sitting for like days in a row, like few times, say different traditions from like the Huni Queen to the Yawanawa, also to the Red Road with Chief Turtle and the Red Road Pass with Peyote, Huachuma. So like really doing deep dives in the jungle, and then coming back to London, still modeling and really feeling like, whoa, what am I doing here? Like just the density of city and then modeling. And I was like, it was another, if you want to say, a dark night of the soul. Yet I'd gone through all of this really deep internal work and just so much profound love. That was really like my deep initiation into plant medicines, and almost like this rekindling of like, I knew this before. It just felt so familiar, and I felt so much love and received so much profound healing, and also connecting to all of these incredible indigenous practices, and being in the ceremonies, and really being in so much reverence of like, in the middle of the jungle, that this is something that is actually available for people. And this was many years back. So, now things are becoming quite popular. And so then coming back to London and being like, whoa, what's going on? Things need to be reevaluated here. And I had to dig really, really deep, and at that point I was really over modeling anyway. And I was ready to kind of like hang up the career because it had already been a good run. And I was like, no, let me, it's here. Everything is here as a gift. And for me to just throw that away, maybe because I wasn't in it 1,000% and feeling that it was in alignment. Yeah, so things for me, like my ethics had completely changed, and I didn't want to, because for me it was like, should I go to a casting where Procter & Gamble, I know, is the head of this company, say that it's like for a shampoo, and I know that they're actually responsible for destroying the rainforest. Do I go to the casting and sort of boycott and tell them what they're doing and that this is a really bad thing to do? Or should I just not go and not say anything? So it was those kinds of decisions for me that I ended up not feeling aligned with any of it eventually. And so I funneled all of my money in from modeling into Tribu Spirit. At this time period was when Tribu Spirit was birthed, because I was really digging deep and trying to find that passion and that purpose. And while so much was shifting and changing around me, and really it was Hapé. Thank God for Hapé, this beautiful sacred medicine and grandfather tobacco that really got me through. I was severely depressed. you go through this massive shift and change and you're a completely different person. So and I didn't have anyone really. I had a few people, and I had started slowly meeting community in London because I was living in London at the time. And it was Hapé that got me through that daily ritual and practice to really keep me connected to the plants, to my experiences, to the teachings, and to the wisdoms that I had all of that deep work that I had gained, that through that is how Tribe of Spirit was birthed. To really, it was like, wait a minute, what's helping me? This could actually also help other people. And so that's when the vision for Tribe of Spirit was born back in 2013. Well, it was before 2013 because it was incubating then. Tribe of Spirit was birthed in 2013. And I got a whole lot of shit for it because it was like, when you're a change maker and you see something ahead, when you're like a visionary, you see things. Like I've always been able to see a need where something is not fully there in a service, or in, where it's like, oh wait, I can bring this and be a bridge. And that was my prayer and my vision, to be a bridge for the Indigenous, to help give them a sustainable way of having an income by keeping their traditions and their practices alive, and then also helping to share that and also bring the power back into your hands so that you can heal yourself. I'm all about sovereignty. So that's when Tribe of Spirit was birthed, and really still to this day, we're a small hand. Like I pick everything. It's hand picked. Each one is different from the next, and I don't want to have a whole lot, creating a whole bunch of, so we're more of like a hand-picked, hand-curated Hapé shamanic shop. Let's see, that's just grown. And then in 2 years ago, I opened up here in the US. That was always kind of, as Tribe of Spirit was evolving and growing, it was sort of like a natural progression. And thanks to really all my US tribe that have been so loving and supportive and like really committed to their path and working with the medicines, that it was a natural progression of me finally saying goodbye to modeling. I had some incredible times, like really, really great trips and just incredible experiences. And to be able to finally say goodbye to that realm and really embrace the shamanic path. Which I'd been doing already, like even from when I was living in New York. I really started my shamanic path in plant medicine. Well, no, not plant medicines, but in at the foundation of shamanic studies. It's through the way of shamanism of working with the drum and being able to journey into the upper world, middle world, and lower world. This is actually, next year I'm going to start teaching. This is one of the courses I'll be offering next year, and connecting people to your power animal to be able to have, an ally and a spirit. And this is in the shamanic realms, we work with different spirits to be able to, enter into altered states of consciousness. That's what shamanism is. It's not like, yes, there's like incredible reverence for this word, but shamanism is, like by definition, it's entering into an altered state of consciousness, which you can do through, and many indigenous tribes did, through repetitive dance, like just shaking, or like in the tribes in Africa. I've spent time with the tribes in Africa. They jump up and down, and they entered into an altered state. They get into this rhythm. You can do it through the drum or also through the rattle. Plant medicine is a whole nother sector and separate kind of like entity unto itself. You don't have to work with plant medicines in order to enter into altered states. Breath work, for example, that you teach. That's where my journey with shamanism started. And for me, I had also, even prior to that, had been working with energy healing and studying at the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. And for me, I loved that. But for me, when I found the drum and journeying through the drum and shamanism, it was like something clicked where it was like, oh, wait a minute, we've done this before, we know. And then like everything just kind of started like clicking, and we were like, yeah, okay, this is it.
I really want to run with what you just said and you actually touched on it a couple of times throughout that story, that you found alignment with what felt like you had done these practices before, that you had lived through these experiences in another lifetime. And I have felt that very much with my own path of finding breath work and finding connection with plant medicines as well, of just feeling like you find the sense of home, like you find a sense of familiarity in the ritual, in the routine, in the state in which it takes you into that altered state of consciousness. And how I truly believe that's the journey of all of us. It's our journey to find that path back to our soul's alignment, back to what it is that we are meant here to do. And so it's beautiful at how you were able to take the journey that you were on through your modeling career and finding the path through the darkness that you experienced to find your light again. And I believe that that's also part of the path of the shaman, is we have to go deep down through the depths in order to find that light that exists within inside all of us.
1,000%. I always tell my clients, I had a really strong teaching from Mother Mary, actually. I never opened myself up to channel again after this because it really scared the shit out of me. And energetically, I was like, what just happened? I don't feel normal. Mother Mary was giving me teaching about the darkness and the black ray. She was saying the black ray. And that she said, this is why this energy is so feared amongst humanity is because it is the most powerful. And it's also the reason why everyone says, like, why we've been conditioned and programmed to actually fear the darkness and not go into the darkness, is because it is your strongest catalyst. It is where you can grow rapid transformation time. If you really want to evolve your soul, you got to lean into those uncomfortable places, dig into the darkness. And that's where you can alchemize. Like, that's where you become this alchemical, I'll say master, because it is when you're given something that is incredibly challenging and painful and tough, and you go into it and you start working it and loving it and really giving it presence and consciousness and love and holding it, you're transforming yourself and you're alchemizing it into your greatest gift, which is gold. And that's actually, like, it serves so much of a purpose. And I would never take away all of the horrible things that have happened to me, because in the end, I've chosen to really lean into those to create empowerment and learning for myself and growth, and everyone else can.
I think that's one of the beautiful things that the plant medicine space can help you to receive, is the teachings from all of those challenging times in your life. I remember back to my very first ayahuasca ceremony and being shown this list of faces of all the people who had done wrong to me in my life and all the people who I had done wrong to in life. And at the end of that list, she basically said, now you have to go through and forgive each and every person.
Yeah.
And so I spent an hour going through internally, just forgiving each and every person. And at the very end of that was myself. And that, of course, was the hardest one to forgive, because, and many of the listeners that have been listening to the podcast for a while have heard me tell this story. But the reason I continue to tell this is because forgiveness in self, at least for my experience, was one of the biggest catalysts of growth that I ever went through. Because once I was able to forgive myself for going through the things that I went through and reacting the way that I did unconsciously, it gave me the gift of choice. of being able to recognize when those patterns present themselves again, because they of course will, they always will. Every time we enter into a new relationship, whether it be romantically, friend, work, that person is always going to be a mirror to show us where that work still lies. And as we can have that awareness, we can begin to cultivate, like I said, those different choices that bring us back into alignment with who we truly are, rather than choices that continue to move us further away from who we are, which I feel is part of the societal condition that we're in. That's like the narrative of, you know, the uppers that kind of control everything within our economy and our society. It's about not having us all be who we truly are. Because if we were all who we truly are and followed our authentic path, this world would be very, very different.
Yes. And they are really afraid of that, of us really understanding that we are the angelic messengers here to really create a new earth, you know, a new way of being. And it's not going to be this way of, personally, in my opinion, I just think it's going to be in ways of, like, you know, our energy is the number one most precious resource, which is why, you know, everybody is clamoring for it on social media or YouTube, and why people get sucked and hooked in is because your energy is the most precious thing that you have. And when we spend our energy being distracted by the narratives of what's happening in the, that's exactly what they want. They've caught you to be like, mesmerized. But it's the way we're going to create the new is by doing these things, not focusing on that, but you and I having conversations like this and sharing with other people how other people can help empower themselves, and how we gather together as a bigger collective tribe and we light one another up on the planet one by one and create the new. And just I personally think it's just going to fade away, because it's not going to, it's crazy. It's not even really in my own reality at the moment. Sure, when I connect to social media, but you know, they're always and that's actually, it's such a training in itself. So I would invite everyone to really not get engaged to in the narratives that are happening outside, because they're always going to be playing a new narrative, and you just stay centered in yourself, be conscious of where your energy is going, and just focus on something that is a higher vibration of where like we're creators on this planet. And how would you like to create with your sacred energy? I know I'm here to create magic and love and bliss, and for people to remember who they are, and that we can live as a tribe in community, harmonious on the earth. And yeah, for me, this is where it's at.
But no, I am in full alignment with that outlook and with that philosophy, and really try to strive each and every day to just keep my focus on what I have control of, what is in my personal field, and how I am showing up for myself, for my family, for my clients, and for the world and all of the people that I interact with, because those are all the things that are within my control. It's easy for us to get lost in all of the stuff that's outside of our control, that's happening in different parts of the planet, that's happening outside of our community, or maybe even within our community. But at the end of the day, all of us can only focus on what we actually have control of. And the main thing that we have control of is ourself and our own internal environment. And that's the beauty of doing journeying, like what you were talking about with utilizing the drum, or with utilizing plant medicines and various other forms of shamanic modalities, of being able to take that journey within the self and be able to begin to cultivate that inner garden so that it can really thrive internally, which then will be reflected in our external environment and our reality that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I want to take a dive back to what you were speaking about with Hapé, because like we touched on a little bit before we hit record, I experienced Hapé for the very first time this morning in preparation for doing this podcast with you. And, you know, the beauty in which your product comes, and I've got one of, your little vials right here, where it's felt from the very moment that I opened the package, like not even opened the container, but literally just opened the package and took out the Hapé and took out this beautiful purple heartwood Caripe with a chrysocolla and a piece of ayahuasca vine on it that just, you can feel the integrity of the medicine. You can feel the integrity of the pieces that were selected to be able to use in this ritual. And I will admit it took me a while to sit with it. I've had this since mid-October, and I've continually putting it off, of waiting for that perfect time period where I could sit down in peace and quiet and serenity and really sit with the medicine. And that time never really presented itself. And so like last night, I made the decision that I was going to wake up really early before the rest of my family woke up and sit down and really spend time with this medicine. And what was so beautiful about it was how gentle it was, and how subtle the messages were, to where I really had to tune in and become very, very present, which admittedly was very, very easy to do. Anybody who maybe struggles with meditation, I would suggest giving Hapé a try, because it's almost like a hack to diving deep into meditation within a few moments, within just a few breaths. And from that space, there was so much clarity in the messages that were coming through. But the main message was coming through was just focus more of living from the heart. Because when we live from the heart, we live in alignment with our soul's expression. And when we live in alignment with our soul's expression, then we open ourselves up for the beauty that life is meant to have for us. And so I just want to just really wholeheartedly thank you for doing the work that you've done all of these years and cultivating the relationship with these amazing plant medicine teachers, to being able to bring it to the world. Because, I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for you, I don't know when I would have experienced this. I'm still very thankful for winning the giveaway that you had, because that told me, I've been hearing the message from Hapé for a very long time, but the opportunity just never presented itself. But I remained open, and I knew that when the time was right and I was meant to sit with it, it would present itself. And lo and behold, on my birthday, I get a notification that, congratulations, you were the winner of a giveaway. And I was like, okay, universe, message received. Yeah, exactly. So it truly is representative of the fact that when you are on the path that you are meant to be, the opportunities will continue to present themselves when the timing is right. And divine timing is truly a key that I think we all need to learn to surrender to.
Yes, I think we could all certainly use more of that medicine, surrender medicine. We're all so used to being in the driver's seat and in that masculine energy, wanting to control and think that we even this human thing knows what's best. Really, it's our higher selves. If we just get out of the way, that's when the magic and the miracles happen.
Yeah, shifting from that human doing to human being.
Yeah. And so, how was your Hapé experience?
It was beautiful. It was, like I said, it was very gentle. I think I had more expectations on what it potentially would end up being like. So I think I built it up in my head more than what it actually was. And so when I realized how gentle it was, there of course was a fairly significant burning sensation right at the very beginning, but that really quickly dissipated to just a very gentle tingling throughout my entire body that is very similar to if you've ever experienced breath work and you've had the experience of tetany. It was kind of like that, but not with any of the cramping, just the felt sense of a lot of energy flowing throughout my body. But what was different than when you are maybe on some of the higher medicines that are going to lean a little bit more being a true psychedelic, where the energy feels very uppity, very spacey, very expansive. This energy was very grounding, was very centering, brought me fully present into my body and allowed my body to relax in a way that I've only felt a few times throughout my life.
Wow.
And so by being able to be that truly grounded and aligned state, the messages that came through were really easy and they were really clear. And there was no question of what it was that I was meant to continue to sit with, the ideas that were meant to continue to flow, and how I could surrender into that, coming fully into my heart and really learning to live from that space. And I just carried that forward into my midweek somatic breathwork live that I did on Instagram. And the messages that I received through that live were, one of, you feel so grounded and heart-centered today. I can feel it through the live. And so it's amazing that when you experience something in yourself and then you resonate with that so much that you begin to emit that through your body, it then is felt by other people.
Yeah.
You are sending ripples out into the universe. So for me, it continued to hammer home the thought process that the best thing any of us can do is to just be the best person that we can be. Not try to change things outside of ourselves, not to try to change other people or change situations, but to just continue to cultivate that inner alignment and just show up as best as we can.
Yeah. So Hapé contains mapacho, the purest form of tobacco, which is mapacho, and I think it's like 16 times stronger than regular tobacco. It's Nicotina rustica, and then it's dried in the sun, and then it's processed into a fine powder by being ground and mashed, and all in a beautiful ceremonial process. I think I have some videos of me in the jungle with the Yawanawa making Hapé actually like a few years ago on my birthday. And then it's processed and mixed with ashes and then prayed over. The whole ceremony of making Hapé is just an incredible, beautiful experience, and which is also why you can also feel the love and the care and the prayers going into the medicine, as well as the way that we care for. I'm an energy healer, a medicine woman. I know how to care for plants and care for energies. For me, the energies are the most important because that's what actually is felt in the physical. When you feel it in the energy, then it solidifies into the physical. So we do specific things to the medicine to make sure that everything's like really in a high alignment. And if the medicine was sort of through travel or whatnot, we just make sure that it's at the highest vibration, as well as with the pots have a Shri Yantra symbol on the bottom, keeping it charged, blessed, and protected. So
we'll see if we can get that in the video here.
Yeah.
For those watching on YouTube, you've got this beautiful Shri Yantra symbol on the bottom.
Yeah, so that supercharges it and keeps it blessed and protected. So Hapé or mapacho or tobacco has been used for eons and centuries as tobacco really helps. It's a purgative. Number one, it's a purgative, so it's going to be purging you in the physical and also energetic realms, as well as grounding, which is why when you're using it, you do feel very grounded. It's almost like a tree, like being grounded and rooting into the earth, and then you can stretch up and you like your spidey spiritual antennas go dee 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 dee, and then you receive all that information and you channel it back into your heart.
Yeah.
And it helps us to really just connect with the essence of who we are, really like shining that mirror, reflecting it back to us of like, hey, you already have all the answers inside. Just shh. So it'll help to quiet the mind, really center and focus and align our energy fields, our chakras, quiet the mind and meditate to be still so that we can hear our own answers, really. And I think that's what think it's important for us to really take our power back. And it's one of the things that, yes, each plant is, for me, they're like beings, and almost, it's like meeting a new friend. You know, they one likes to hang out in a certain area, and one is like really funny and has a different personality. And so you go to hang out with your different friends who are allies that you can really go to. So with Hapé, you can go to, and I tell people all the time, really treat him like a friend. The plants are here to help us evolve. And I don't like to use the word healing, but really just reconnect and help us to take the empowerment back into our own hands, to really just, it's just clearing and aligning. That's all it is, to remember, because maybe we forget sometimes.
Yeah, that remembering is, I think, a really important aspect to the plant medicine journey, because they do really help us remember who we truly are. And that is a part of nature, that we're not separate from it. We actually are a part of it. And, you know, I spoke on the integrity of your medicine, and that even comes down to just the packaging that you use, because it's very minimal packaging. It's all made with, you know, biodegradable materials. There's not a lot of plastic or anything like that. And so it just goes to show it how much you have a sense of bettering the world through everything that you do and everything that you offer. So it really is such a beautiful gift of not only the medicine itself, but just the intention that goes behind it, and the thought that goes behind it, and the heart and love that goes behind it, that can, like I said earlier, just can really be felt.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really grateful that you can feel it, from the minute that you open up your package. And it's Tribe Spirit is my baby. My clients are my babies. It's like I'm certainly leaving this world a better place than I found it. And the packaging, is made from the packaging is biodegradable and made from recycled paper. But even then, I really encourage people to reuse them. I'm such a, I save glass jars, and I'm always saving containers, because I'm like, I can put other Hapé in this, or I can put my resins and other plant medicines in it. I'm a saver and really believe in. So I really also encourage, because it is a really beautiful packaging, and it also, can charge other medicines. So once it's finished, I really encourage people to keep them and reuse them.
Yeah, it's a beautiful message. And I think the more that we can step into that, trying to be stewards for the planet in that way of reusing stuff more and more and more, and not continuing on this mentality that the many generations before us have cultivated, of this constant need for new, and just throw away the old instead of repurposing something or reusing something if you can. And I do believe that many of the messages that I think a lot of the individuals that have come onto this podcast would agree with is that we are in a time period where it's this archaic revival. All of these ancient wisdom teachings and indigenous culture teachings are becoming popular now, because I think all of us are recognizing it, how disconnected we've come from our ancestors, from the lineages that we all have come from. And by being able to reconnect with the ancestors in that way, we can reconnect with a more harmonious way of living with the earth.
And I love that you said that in the ways that we've all been, because the Hopi prophecy of the Rainbow Warriors is exactly what's happening right now. I think, a lot of us share it and really resonate with it, because it is so true that we are living in a time where we might be, this meat suit does not matter. We have to stop thinking so 3D and be from this eagle eye soul perspective of and because that's also how we're connecting, of my soul recognizes your soul. I don't care about this 3D stuff, So I think that really we've all been everything, depending on how old our soul is. And really connecting and remembering each of us, I'm sure, who are drawn to these ways of living harmoniously on the earth, that things really have to change. And it's those of us who are the change makers and spreading the consciousness and sharing it with the rest of the world. We are the Rainbow Warriors together. And it's not about like one has more knowledge or wisdom than the other. It's just that like I've had a soul journey on this planet, and so have you. And I'm really curious to learn from you as well. We all learn and grow from one another and are teachers for one another if we allow ourselves to be.
Exactly. Shaundra, do you believe that we all have, some call it light codes, some call it downloads, some call it just information, but each of us carries within us this like vibrational signature that only resonates with our soul? But that resonance can affect the resonance of other people, that then almost it's like unlocks something within inside of them that allows them to meet that next upgraded level. Have you noticed that within your practice and working with your clients and all of these different traditions and plant medicine teachers?
I love that you're even saying this, because for me, this is like our galactic lineages, our specific galactic lineages. And for me, I mean, that's kind of like a whole nother topic. I've connected to many different galactic timelines that I've lived through. And I am an Aurora, which is a race that is not really, there's not many people speaking about it. It's something that I do try to help share the knowledge and wisdom, because I'm not the only one. And I do think that other people are connecting to if you will, these codes. It's a very specific coding. And I've understood it as my galactic race of where I ultimately come from. I can't trace anything as far back as this. And so I think that we all come from a different galactic lineage and race. And these are the specific like DNA codes and threads that create this magical recipe, which is an energetic frequency also. And that is a for real thing. People who get drawn to me, I know are of just like a certain vibration, a certain frequency. There is like that coding, and because we're all communicating with one another through sound and frequency and vibration, it's a resonance. So yeah, I definitely believe that we all have specific codes, and I think that that's also a really incredible part of being human, is that we get to discover that.
So Shaundra, what did you do to help you to connect with those different timelines, those different lifetimes? Was that through plant medicine journeys? Was that through deep introspection and meditation? What was your process that took you to those places and times?
A lot has been actually thanks to Huachuma. I'm trained as a Huachumera, and through a lot of my Huachuma ceremonies, he's so galactic, for me at least. That's how I experience him. And as I'm even saying that, I'm catching myself, because it's almost something that like I recognized in my last dieta with Noirao, is that I experience things through my own consciousness, like we all do. And so for me, there's almost like all the plants that I work with, they have this like fun, weird, galactic element to them, because that's who I am. You know, it's like our consciousness. And I think you and I shared and touched on this before we started, is that I have this consciousness and this plant has this consciousness, but it's only allowed to communicate, not allowed, but can communicate to you through your own level of understanding and consciousness. So if that's where I receive things from, maybe the highest vibration is this like funny, fun, galactic being, that's how I'm going to understand things. And I think that that's also probably like going back to this coding for all of us, is on that really deep galactic soul level, who we are from the beginning of incarnation, that first like root race. So thanks to, really a lot to Huachuma. It's an incredible master and teacher for me. He's been very galactic. My work with my own medicine, Changa. Changa is a mix of DMT and then a plant mix fused together. My galactic races, galactic family have always come through. They've shared with me a lot of like who I am, what my mission is here on the planet. Part of that, and then I've had one of the deepest, really profound journeys on my own medicine that I make. Was the spirit of Changa showing me my higher self and the essence of who I am, that I'm like a spark of the Divine Mother, that is also Pachamama, that is also the spirit of Ayahuasca, that is also the spirit of Divine Cosmic Mother. Like all of these medicines and energies, these codes that I work with. And that part of my mission is to share Changa actually as a very transformative medicine, as a medicine that it is, because a lot of people work with Changa. Like, oh, hey man, let's like trip out, and like, because Changa is highly psychedelic. When you just receive DMT is like a skyrocket rocket ship, and it's really fast and very psychedelic. You're transversing into many different dimensions, but it's so fast you don't understand what's happening. So you come back and you're like, what was that? So with my medicine, I have 3 different strains of ayahuasca, many other different plants in it that do very specific things. And it's also slowed down in a ratio where it's like this alchemy again that we were speaking about, is that you're actually able to work with the medicine. And I'm such an advocate for this. And I was speaking about this, I don't know, I think with a client, that I'm really, I'll just say I'm a proponent of working with your consciousness with plant medicines, instead of being skyrocketed or like punched in the face in this masculine way of like harder, faster, stronger, more is better. That is dangerous and creates trauma and like triggers the nervous system. That's for me just the way that I prefer to. It's the way that I lead my spaces. It's the way that I hold spaces in a strong container, but a very loving way. So you can work with anything to an extreme, and it can kind of tend to be like do the opposite, have the opposite effect. And I think we're seeing this a lot in shamanic spaces and in medicine spaces. And the way, less actually is more, because you already have all the answers within you. You just need to be held in a safe, loving, strong container for the medicines to help be that bridge for you to release and realign and again remember who you are. So Huachuma, Changa, and some of my I have a really powerful team of different light energy workers that I work with, because I also really believe that as someone who holds space for others, I need someone to hold space for me, so
yeah.
I think it's really important as healers and space holders that we also are doing our work, our practices, but then what happens if shit hits the fan and you don't have tools and you don't know what to do? I think it's always important that we have our team. So through my really gifted and talented energy workers, thanks to them, and actually this woman that I found a few years ago, we've been working in my Akash, and I will eventually write a book about the auroras, because it's a galactic race that, again, not many people know about, but I think they're connecting for sure. I see the signs, and where it's like, oh, she's an aurora, or I'll tell someone about the auroras and the kind of energies about them, and I'll be like, yeah, for sure. You know, it's a certain frequency. It's a certain vibrational coding, as going back to our conversation. So I will be writing a book at some point about the auroras, so that people can also, you know, connect to them consciously and invite them in, because they're here for a planetary ascension, as we all are on this mission. and we're all doing it in different ways.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you connected to your galactic races?
So I have always really resonated with living multiple lifetimes on this planet. Whether I'm from this planet, that's a whole different question. Traveling to Glastonbury, England, I felt at home.
Yes.
So I definitely know that I've lived in Avalon at one point in time in my life.
I love that you've been to Avalon. It's such a sacred place.
It really is. Being able to sit on top of the Tor and just watch the land, especially like the mist rolling through early in the morning, is just
so magical.
You don't know what you're missing until you've actually experienced it, and then you'll realize what you've been missing all along. But going to Peru, I also felt at home there, just in the Sacred Valley, just the medicine that land has to offer in and of itself, even just aside from the plant medicines, just the people that are there. But I've also always really, really resonated with the energy of dragons. And that has just been something that has been profound throughout my lifetime. And even one of the experiences that I had, there's a mountain here in Washington called Mount Adams, and it's the tallest mountain that you can summit without needing to be tethered to another person. And so very similar altitudes of what you experience there in the Sacred Valley in Peru. And upon summiting that mountain with a friend of mine, we both really struggled coming back down. It took way more of a physical toll on our bodies than we had anticipated. And that night, we both were questioning of like how we were going to hike down the next day, because we were both so sore and so exhausted. And I woke up in the middle of the night to a blinding white light and a very felt sense of a dragon presence. And was gifted with, I got my Reiki master's training in 2016. And so I've always been very deep into the energy of the body and the energy of universal consciousness, and was gifted a new level of that healing that is very much associated with dragons and the elements of the earth, and how we can work with those different energies to help us when we need help physically and energetically, to help us when we're going through emotional struggles and time periods. And I really love this conversation, because it just goes to show that, like, even though you and I work with different energies, we've recognized that through the use of shamanic practices, which is the bridge to the spirit world, that there is so much support in the unseen realms for us to be able to utilize, if we're willing to recognize and be open to receiving that assistance. But we also have to ask for it.
Yes. I love dragons. I have some dragons that I work with too. And I would love to hear from you, like how you experience dragon medicine.
So dragon medicine for me has always been, at least so from a childhood, I always just looked at dragons as these just powerful beings and powerful creatures that were nothing like what the stories have told. Weren't these vicious man-eating creatures, but were more of energetic beings that were here to help cultivate a shift in consciousness, just as they are doing now in this time. And how they've always presented themselves to me is through nature, of seeing them on the same hike that I did many years ago, but didn't actually summit the mountain. I saw a stump that I have a photo of, and it looks exactly like a dragon.
Wow.
Taking that same trail this last time, that stump was no longer there.
Wow. I love that.
So my question would be, was it maybe actually a dragon that shifted into wood that still presented itself, but it just looked like a natural part of nature? But then when nobody was there to witness it, it moved along and continued on its path.
Totally could have been. Yeah.
So it's like, many people that might be thinking of this are like, oh, that's super woo-woo and dragons don't really exist. But the thing that has always gotten me when people argue, well, dragons are just science fiction or fantasy. If they were just science fiction and fantasy, how is it that every single culture throughout history has a dragon story? They all have a dragon story because dragons had to have existed in some way, shape, or form at one period of time in history. Otherwise, all of those cultures wouldn't have stories around them. And most of the time, those stories are around it, how powerful and the gifts that those dragons could share.
Mm-hmm. So from time to time, I do grid work, which is really just working with the energy of Pachamama. She is a being just like us, and she has chakra systems and nadis and a whole energy system and stargates and gateways and portals and have so many things. And I only do grid work really when it calls. My humanness isn't like, oh, okay, today's summer solstice and I'm going to go do some grid work. It's usually like a very strong calling. It's like that wakes me up where it's like, must go to work, so I just follow. So, right. What I was going to say was about dragons is for me is that I've experienced them and actually helping me sometimes when I do grid work. They're really like within the grid lines. They love to help work within those powerful energy lines within the intra-terrain in the earth, and are also, I've found that you can connect with them, that they're found more in these energy vortex places. So I'm curious if where you were is a powerful energy place, grid point.
Yeah, actually, on the south side of Mount Adams, it's known that there's a vortex there. So it would make sense that those energies would be very prevalent in that area.
Amazing. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. So how have dragons shown up in your life?
In different ways where it's something I've had to learn how to tame. that I have dragon medicine and to not breathe fire down and destroy things, like to learn how to harness that power. That's something within the the humanness of learning to work with that energy as an archetype, if you will. And then also, actually, the first time I connected to the dragons was in Glastonbury, was in Avalon, and doing like at the Dragon Egg on the tour. Have you been?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the side. And this beautiful aurora, very faint. When I connect to beings, I don't experience them as 3D beings. Like if I connect to Jesus, he's like a homeboy that's like dressed in a robe with flowing hair. Or Archangel Michael doesn't look like the way that he's depicted. For me, they show up in I understand things through color, which is light. And within light is codes and information. And then there's like a download, telepathic communication that happens. So it was like this really, it's so hard to describe sometimes when I have these experiences where it's like, it felt like this really big, I don't know, like this energy coming in and like sweeping in. And then it was the color frequency also was the auroras. I'm familiar with these energy colors because I've been working with them for a long time, and like then finally figured out like, oh right, they're the auroras, which I am. The auroras are they're shape-shifting colors like the aurora borealis. That's, as auroras, we work with light and codes and frequency, like we all do, but specifically, okay, I'll break down the auroras. The auroras are, if you've got the rainbow, the primary rainbow spectrum of light. I don't like to use this as an example, but for helping the explanation, you have the masculine Christ consciousness frequency. That's an energy that we connect to and work with, the golden Christ consciousness frequency of unconditional love. And then you have the Magdalene, the Sophia Christic energy, which is the copper. I thought it was rose gold before, and then Mary Magdalene came in to a meditation. She was like, it's copper. So it's copper and gold on the primary rainbow spectrum of light, which are alchemical energies. This is like an alchemical fusion that happens within the light codes, and then they're burst into a new frequency of light, which is actually what we are experiencing on the planet. And the auroras are pillars in the planet as well as beings that are here to help. It's like I don't want to ever make anything sound like one is like higher vibration or like it's better than or less than. It's just that there are specific codes of frequency and light that are here to upgrade. So the aurora is like this frequency that I've always been familiar with. Came in, and it was like this dragon feeling, like almost like it took me into itself, and then we sort of like we were flying around the tour, and then like doing this spiral of like bringing that frequency of light. And this is also sometimes what happens when I do grid work. I also just like open myself, same way I do energy work. I open up the space. I allow myself to sit and feel, and I will sit even if nothing happens. Like I wait for the true, connection and alignment, instead of, forcing something or waiting for that moment where the energy comes through. And we did spirals all along the tour. It was quite fun, spinning in spirals along the tour. So in a way, we were interdimensionally doing some grid work, and that was one of the first times I ever experienced dragons. And they're certainly present in Avalon for sure. And there's so many myths and legends of these stories of Avalon and people, working with dragon energy. There are also dragon energy grid lines on the planet that I only know of. I don't know a whole lot about them, but it's maybe also naturally just what I'm connecting into when I do the grid work.
Sure. Yeah. And it seems in very much alignment with the information that I received through my meditations and connecting with them, is that they really are working with the energies of the planet to help facilitate this upgrade that we're going to shifting to this new earth, new consciousness, new way of living more harmoniously with the way that, our ancestors lived for hundreds or thousands of years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So where do you foresee us continuing to shift as more and more people get on this path of working with the plant medicines, working with dragons, working with different energies, working with sound healing like you utilize? How do you foresee us continuing to shift as time goes on?
Well, we have a matrix that is really the galactic war that we've been in for eons. We live in Star Wars. We're in a war of consciousness. And again, referencing that, I don't like to spend too much energy or time or focus on that because it's my precious life force. And instead, refocusing on how I can create the world that I want to live in and connect with people who are of the same mission. I feel that it's only going, they can't stop it. That's also why they're freaking out so much. It's because there's more people waking up. And again, the darkness has its place. Sometimes I have, and during the crazy C times, and the whole V thing, I would go down rabbit holes and get really pissed off, and like my dragon would get like, rah. And have to like reel myself back in and be like, okay, Shaundra, the darkness is serving. It's serving to help awaken people who are perhaps haven't seen this stuff yet. And it is serving a larger audience of collective humanity to awaken to the truth of what is actually happening and going on. And that will continue to have a ripple effect. And I just think it's such an interesting, I don't know if sociological is the right word or term, as like a human study to just witness what has been happening, where it is serving, and then to come back to that place and to trust and surrender. And I know that sometimes it's hard. I have to reel myself back into and not get pissed off at the stuff that's happening. It is enraging. But the way that you can activate that dragon energy, that rainbow warrior essence, is to just be stronger in your mission and do your internal work first. And then, naturally be of service. And we can be in service of so many small ways. Like you go to the beach, pick up plastic, or you're in the water and you clean up the earth. Creating, like if you have a business, we really have to think about these small ways that we can have an impact in our little communal globe spheres, because that's how we're going to create the impact. So for me, I hated having we had plastic packaging before, and it killed me every time I was packing the medicine. And so for years, it was just like, I really was praying. And so now, in my community and my tribe, and I know that I have been a forerunner, and many people have copied me now and like to copy what I do. And I'm grateful if I can be someone who is leading the way in ways to run a business sustainably and in ways that are in alignment with ethics and the earth and the indigenous. And so within our own spheres, it's like not taking off more than we can chew, because then I think our egos can tend to want to get involved and think like, oh, look at me, aren't I so great? But it's the small things that really make a difference. So, that one choice for me to make, really seek out ethically aligned packaging, recyclable packaging, that has made a huge difference and an impact in ways that I'm sure I don't even know. And I just continue to see it grow and grow, like that the evolution of who we are as light beings is not stopping. There's no way that you can stop it. There's too many of us that have been switched on who know what's happening in the video game here. And
yeah,
we're not going to settle. So I just see more of us lighting more and more up, us who have maybe been on the path also for many years are now stepping into roles of sharing wisdom and teaching. And not that it makes us better than anyone else. It's just that, like, okay, you've had this many years of your journey, and now you can speak from a place of wisdom and help others along their journey. And so this kind of like, and the kids, my gosh, I love working with these young kids. I don't know if you've had experience with these kids that are like in their 20s and super switched on, like maybe somewhere. I mean, I've met kids who are even just 20, and I'm like, whoa. Like who I was when I was 20 was not that. But these kids who are just, they come here, they're super switched on. These are the kids. They don't want to drink. They don't want to do drugs. They know what time it is. They know what is happening here, and they are not down for it. And they are like, you give them little tools of healing, or they sit in one ceremony and they're like rocket ships, and they're off and done. And they're like, they grow so rapidly. I love working with these kids.
Yeah, it's like they're operating on a much higher vibration from the very beginning of their life than what we were able to. And I love talking this like conversation around like timelines and how we live, and at how many times people comment as they get older at how time seems to be speeding up. Mm-hmm. But I've always looked at it as, it's not that time is speeding up, it's that time is different now energetically than it was when we were first born. But our body operates based on the timeline that we were born into. Not speaking in timelines as far as like alternate timelines and things like that, but just of the energy of that. You know, I'm operating off of the energy of 1984. Somebody who's operating off of the energy of 2000 is going to be very, very different energetically, because that 16 years was 16 years worth of growth and evolution of human consciousness. So they're now operating based on that operating system. It's just like, you know, if you were trying to use a computer with Windows 95 loaded onto it, of course it's going to seem like it's super clunky and old and it doesn't work very good comparatively to working on a Mac from, you know, 2020. Like, it's just that different of these children that are coming on, where I feel like they're coming into these lives with less density than what we were carrying, which then we have to do a little bit more work to raise our vibration to the same level that they do, where it's almost like they just, like you said, they do one ceremony and they're off and running. Like they don't need to do any more work because they've already upgraded to that level of energy that now they can continue to harness. It's just, it's beautiful and fascinating all at the same time to just see the collective evolution that's happening. And I think it's really beautiful that there's individuals like yourself, myself, and many of the other guests that have been on the show that are just helping to continue that evolution in consciousness by not only continuing to do the work ourselves, but being facilitators for other people to do that work as well.
Yeah, it's kind of trippy because sometimes, you know, where it's like, I have kids that I work with, and because they know who they are and they feel this strong calling, like they want to do what I do already. And it's like, whoa, wait, slow the roll, you know, whereas like, they're just like, they see it, they know what they want, and they're like, I'm going after it. And I was like, it doesn't quite work like that. We gotta like take our time, go. And it's something maybe up for debate. I don't know. I'm all about the evolution of humanity, you know, but there is also something to say for years of training and practice that you can't speed that up. There's, okay, I know that time is an illusion, but there is definitely something to say for that time being created, you know, years after years of training and practice in your own spiritual evolution and growth to even be able to hold spaces for other people.
Yeah.
Have you worked with
personal experience?
Yeah. Have you worked with these younger kids and you see this?
Yes. And I do agree with what you were saying of how there seems to be this thought process where if I experience a ceremony and I have a really enlightening experience, that gives me the permission to hold space in ceremony for other people. But
it's dangerous.
It takes so much more knowledge and wisdom through learned experience of sitting with medicine time after time after time after time yourself before you should ever even consider holding space for another person. I mean, even when it comes to my breathwork practice, like I think I did probably 60 different breathwork sessions before I even considered becoming a practitioner myself, because I know I can only take people as deep as I've gone myself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you can absolutely go super deep in a single ceremony, but it's not going to be as deep as you're going to go if you do 20 to 50 ceremonies, because every ceremony, every breathwork session, every Reiki session, you know, whatever it is that you're choosing to work with builds on top of the other. And that personal experience, as it builds, it goes from knowledge to wisdom. Wisdom is how we can apply that knowledge in life. And I do feel like that is only achievable. I just celebrated 39 years at the beginning of October. And so it's like, thank you. And I do feel like now I'm finally getting to a point where I feel comfortable and confident knowing that the information that I'm giving is actually coming from a fully integrated, aligned space, not just information that I recently learned and I'm just regurgitating onto somebody else. Like, I actually have this lived experience that tells me the information that I'm sharing is true because I've gone through it.
I recently, so I've done plant dietas. I was initiated with Hapé, and I had to do a mapacho dieta, which was super, super rough. Like purging at both ends. I had to be carried to my room, like sweating. Grandfather tobacco is a strong one. And I only did it for like 4 days. I couldn't imagine like a month or becoming a tabaquero. But I bring this up because I just did a dieta last year with Noirao, and I'm about to leave. So my tradition now is like around my birthday or December is like just a good time for me to go do my dietas. And I'll be leaving next month again. And it's like, working with Noirao last year for a month and then coming back and then seeing the difference was kind of like, whoa, this is really cool. It's like, oh wow. Okay, we've got some new friends, some new tools. This is like fun to play with. Just because for me, I say fun because I love what I do, and I love being able to be the bridge and work with these plants and help people evolve. So for me, this is like where it becomes fun. But yeah, being able to really see that, like, whoa, okay, I like have to, especially when I came back and like seeing. So now everyone who's working with me, kind of the thing that's been happening in this last year, and I actually have to give my work pre-warning labels sometimes, where it's like, warning, you must be ready for change. Since I worked with Noirao, this year is like everyone that I work with, their life is definitely rapidly transforming. And that can sometimes be a little shaky. There's a process of the old crumbling, but then only to be rebuilt in a much more harmonious alignment that is for you in your best alignment for what you're calling in. So I can only encourage everyone actually to do plant dietas if you're feeling called, and especially with shamanic practitioners and people who are in this space, is like if you haven't done dietas, then you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
And now it's like super exciting for me, and I can't wait to go to Dieta and like connect. I don't know if I'll be dieting with Noya or Bo and Sana's actually calling me, but yeah, it just becomes fun because now it's like, yeah, you get to work with like new allies and new friends, and they all are incredibly like they're incredible. When you do a Dieta, it's just you have this incredible, you know, new plant ally to be working with you, and it, you know, the work has worked when it shows up in your life. You've had that transformation in your life, and you are the bridge for that transformation for others. It's, yeah, I'm super grateful and really blessed to be the bridge, and just have so much love and immense gratitude for Noira. I'm really excited to be with her again.
It's such a beautiful process that you touch on. And I think truly a good point of the people who are fully aligned with the work that they are doing shows because they are continuing to do the work themselves. Mm-hmm. It's not like they've gotten to a certain point, they become a teacher or a facilitator or a practitioner, and then they just start holding space, and then they completely stop working on themselves. It's like this being of service to others always starts with being of service to self, and being of service to self by continuing to do the work so we can continue to remember who it is that we are. And through that remembering process, just like you touched on, you gain more tools, you gain more allies, you gain more teachers to be able to work with, which then gives you more knowledge and wisdom to be able to then be of service to others that much more.
Yeah.
Well, Shaundra, I feel like we could talk for hours on end, but in honor of your time and honor of the time of our listeners, I would love to transition and ask you the embrace and expand signature question. Shaundra, what did you have to embrace in your life in order to expand into the person you are today?
So much. And it's a constant unfolding, you know? And I think that's the beautiful gift of being human, is that it's like a discovery of just uncovering more. And I'm always such a curious person, but man, I've had to healing for sure. I've had to embrace healing, and like reclaiming my sovereignty. Sovereignty as an Aurora is something that is really big for us. And yeah, reclaiming my empowerment, taking my power back, and instead of giving it away. And I think it's really important. You know, healing can be so many things. But I think that was forgiveness also. I think you only asked one, right? Well, those are
you can list as many as you want. Yeah, that's beautiful. And the reason I love this question so much, and I kind of say this just about on every podcast, is just how unique that story comes up, but how really we have to embrace so many different parts of ourselves in order to truly expand. But I want to come back to what you've continued to say about the remembering process, that remembering who we are is just as important to our expansion as it is to go beyond what it is that we view ourselves as just right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're everything. And when we allow ourselves to expand, it's like you can become that consciousness and experience being the oneness with everything. I love that your podcast is called Embrace and Expand. It's so perfect.
Very, very intentionally called. And it's the name of my business. And I just coined that and turned it into the podcast of really my whole philosophy with getting into being of service to others is helping people to embrace all that they are, to expand into the best version of themselves.
Mm-hmm. And to really shine that. I think so many of us have gone through really challenging and difficult life experiences. And some people, I would just really encourage people, like that's where the gold is, like I said before. And to really, because some people think like, oh, it's not perfect, or oh, I messed up, or oh, it looked like a mess. That's actually like we're human, and that's part of this spiritual experience. Being a human is to explore all of those different, like just different ways of experiencing humanity, being human.
Yeah.
I lost my thread. What was I going to say? Like that moment just now. Not being perfect. It's perfect in its imperfection.
Exactly. Which it's funny that you use those exact words, because I literally have them tattooed on my wrist in Latin,
No
perfectius imperfectus. And it was a message that came to me in my Reiki master training that was the only message I really received from that training. Is every single meditation and activation that we sat through, I just kept on receiving that message. You are perfect in your imperfection. You are perfect in your imperfection, because I am a recovering perfectionist. And so I've spent the majority of my life striving to make everything that I do perfect, but we'll never actually achieve that. We can only achieve imperfection, but we are perfect in that imperfection. So it's not that we don't want to strive to be that better version, because of course we do, but we shouldn't beat ourselves down for not being perfect, for not getting it right the first time, because that's how we learn. We learn how to do it the right way by doing it the wrong way. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, let me go back to the drawing board and see how it works better this time. And then from that, we can expand into that more beautiful life based upon that knowledge, that wisdom, that gained life experience.
Yeah, so beautifully put.
So Shaundra, what is one last piece of advice that you would leave the listeners with if they really enjoyed what you had to say today and want to take a step towards the plant medicine path or discovering where they're from galactically?
For people who are interested in, maybe who haven't experienced plant medicines before, I recommend really researching and vetting whoever you're going to work with, and really inquiring and asking them where they've trained, if they've done dietas, like who their teachers are. Like this is really important. I mean, we just live in an age where people just fake shit all the time. And some people don't even ask. And so if people ask me, I thank them for asking me. So really to really vet whoever you're going to be working with, and to feel safe and comfortable in that person's presence, and their energy, that it has to be a vibrational, energetic alignment, and to really, there's no rush, to go slow. In my own perfect world, I would kind of set everybody up with, like, working with Hapé and Sananga first, and then with Kambo, and then, like baby steps. And really, I see it as certainly some people do need hard, strong, and fast, because they're in a situation where maybe their life depends on it. But for most people, I would recommend, going slow, like working with Hapé and Sananga first, and working with one energy, not confusing it with all sorts of other energies. Really give your precious energy time to build a relationship with one plant. If you're working with one Hapé or one Hapé blend, build a relationship so that you know how that medicine is working for you. It's different for everyone. And then work and build on this approach, you know, a slow approach to creating relationships with plant medicines. I recommend Kambo before any other plant medicines, and also, you know, stay true to who you are and what your calling is. I just personally know that working with all the plant medicines, that Kambo helps to physically and energetically and also multidimensionally clear, clean, and align your physical and multidimensional energy bodies. So that means you're only going to be and it's non-psychoactive. So you're going to be able to learn how to work with a plant medicine, animal medicine, in a non-psychoactive space, to learn how to trust and surrender and breathe and really work with a plant medicine in a non-psychoactive space, which is good practice. And you're going to be clean, cleared, and aligned so that you're in a higher vibrational place to then work with another plant medicine. And from there, I mean, I work with Bufo. I hold Bufo. I've served people who've never worked with any plant medicines, Bufo as their first medicine. It's just what they're calling in. And so there's no necessarily right or wrong, but there are best practices for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I would say slow method, slow approach, and give yourself time to like really integrate the lessons and journaling throughout your whole life. And this is a way that you're really making best use of that precious energy that you yourself are cultivating, the shamanic practitioners cultivating, and also the energy of the medicines. We are so blessed beyond measure. If you even knew what it took to get Hapé to your door, you know, it's like to even be able to sit with ayahuasca or bufo, like the kinds of dynamics that are actually happening in these communities is not, it's not good. Because they are also, you know, they're the source of these natural medicines, and the systems they also know that, and they don't also want that to be happening. So it's becoming increasingly difficult. So, you know, really taking the time to honor and respect that you have the honor and the privilege to even work with these sacred medicines, and to really then integrate once you've worked with one plant medicine. And in terms of galactic, how people can begin to connect with their galactic lineages, for me, this has happened through plant medicines. You can, because I believe we all are from a galactic race, in your meditations or in your breath work, because breath work also reveals and opens and activates your own DNA, your consciousness as well. It is a medicine. It's powerful medicine. When you're working in any sorts of realms of consciousness or altered states of consciousness, you can set your intention to discover what race you're from, and connecting and asking for your galactic race to show up and to build a relationship with them. And it's the same, just like with plant medicines, like anything really, you know, we have to continually water and feed that relationship of the energy, or like the plant or the animal or the practice. We have to really continue to water and nurture each one of those.
Yeah, such great advice. And I wholeheartedly agree with that slow and steady pace. Mm-hmm. Instead of, you know, we say it in breathwork all the time, too much, too fast just causes more trauma. And, you know, just like you said, is for some people, that may be the medicine that they need. They may need a catapulted journey to get them past the point in which they find themselves. But I would say that that's probably more of a rarity than a norm. More of the norm for people is to take things very slowly. And just like you said, to take things one at a time, to not try to do too many different things in too short of a period of time, because then you don't really know, well, what actually made the catalyst happen? What actually made the biggest difference? And I question that sometimes on my journey when I went to Peru, because I experienced ayahuasca, I experienced Huachuma, I experienced cacao, and I experienced breath work all in a 7-day period of time, and multiples from each of those. And so
medicine
it's exactly. Yeah, it was definitely an intensive journey and beautiful. I mean, it is what started me to where I am today, but I can never pinpoint, was it the ayahuasca that made the big difference? Was it the Huachuma that made the big difference? Was it the cacao? Was it the breath work?
Was it all of it?
I know. Yeah, was it all of it? Was it all just working synergistically together? And that's how it actually needed to happen in order for me to receive the healing that I did. But I think if I had the opportunity to just sit with ayahuasca and experience her presence, and then to just sit with Huachuma and experience his presence, and then just to sit in breath work and experience my own presence, that it wouldn't have taken me 5 years of integration to unpack everything that happened within that 10-day period of time, to where now I feel like I'm finally at the point where I've integrated enough of that information that I could go back to ceremony again.
Are you for real? It took you five years to integrate that.
It's been 5 years since I've sat with Huachuma since then, but I haven't sat with ayahuasca. I use cacao on a very regular basis. My wife and I just held a very beautiful cacao and breathwork ceremony this last Saturday that was amazing. But I have not sat with ayahuasca again since that point, because of just receiving so much in such a short period of time that I've had to re-reference the journal that I wrote in when I was there numerous times to continue to unpack some of the teachings. And breathwork definitely for me was one of the greatest ways of being able to truly integrate that information, because I didn't have any other substance within my system. It was just me and my breath. And then being able to see, oh, okay, that's what it meant when I experienced this in the ayahuasca ceremony, because now I have more presence and more knowledge around that. So I definitely really appreciate your aspect and your philosophy on taking it slow, starting off with more of the non-psychoactive plants first and developing a relationship with those, and then building off from that standpoint.
I'm all for evolution, and if you can do it in the fastest time possible, but there's like a fine line, where I've also had healings with powerful energy workers that don't seal and close the energy field properly. And I've been like on the floor for a month or a week crying and like not okay, like what's happening? Like it's that actually does more harm than good. It's not about taking 10 steps forward and then 50 back. So less is more.
Absolutely. Well, Shaundra, I thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, your channelings that you brought to this amazing podcast. Moving forward, if any of the individuals listening to this want to work with you directly, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
They can message me directly on my Instagram. It's tribu, TRIBU _spirit. And then in my link in bio, I am officially a plant medicine church. I have all of my links of all the myriad of things that I do. So the work with me is where people can find my ceremonial website. The Tribu Spirit US and also EU is also there. And then probably some other fun links that I have of like other YouTube, like the YouTube channel. You can find everything in the link in bio.
Beautiful. And listeners, as always, I will have all of that information in the show notes below, so it's easy for you to get a hold of. I would highly, highly recommend, whether you've already experienced Hapé or whether you're interested in experiencing Hapé, definitely try out Tribe U Spirits. Their product is absolutely amazing, and I am so looking forward to continuing to deepen my relationship with it.
Me too. Let me know how you get on with it. And thank you.
I absolutely
Thank
will.
you so much for having me on. It's been a joy and a pleasure to connect with you, and from such a beautiful heart space, and sending you many blessings upon your path and for everything that you do. Thank you, brother.
I appreciate your words so much, and I definitely will let you know how my journey goes, and hopefully we can do this again in the future sometime.
Yes, I welcome that. Lots of love.
Beautiful. Well, thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the Embrace and Expand podcast. As always, I'm so grateful for you being here on this journey with me. If you enjoyed what we had to talk about today, please feel free to share it with your friends, family, on your social media networks, so we can continue to help spread these beautiful messages throughout the world. So thank you again for being here, and I'll catch you on the next one.